Hey guys, how's it going? Alright, so I'm gonna make a second video on boot camp. So this is gonna be like a receiving week video. I already talked about my very first night at MCRD San Diego. So I think the second day, okay, so I left off where I thought we are gonna go, or people felt like we are gonna go to sleep. It was like 4 a.m. or 5 a.m., right? And we thought we were gonna hit the rack and go to bed, but we ended up going to Chow. I remember going to Chow. Before we went to Chow, he was like, so this is how you're gonna hold your tray. You're gonna put your tray in your hands and have the tray in between your index finger and your middle finger. You're gonna hold it like this. Your elbows are gonna be tight to your body. Hold the tray up to your body like this. And we go to Chow Hall and we get whatever we want, and he really doesn't give a crap. Like, I thought we're gonna be there and they're gonna be like, always like 10 inches away from our face in the Chow Hall, and that they're gonna be screaming at us in every direction when we're going to eat, and that like it was gonna be really stressful in the Chow Hall. That's what I thought. But we go there, wait in line, we get inside, get our chow. Then as we go sit down at the tables, we get back up, get oatmeal. Then anyway, we sit down, and I remember there's this one guy, very first morning of boot camp, he's sitting there, and I could almost tell he was gonna ball up right there and just start crying at the table in the chow hall. And it just, like, for me, I felt bad for him because it was very first morning of boot camp, and he was like almost crying in tears right there. And I was thinking to myself, this just must not be what he expected or whatever. And after chow, I think we go back to the squad bay, and then we eventually go over to the medical part of the base, where we go to get shots and stuff. And they play around you with a lot there. Like, they'll be like, get up, get down. There's this one drill instructor that was like, you do whatever my fingers do. Then so he goes like this, and we have to stand up, and then he goes like that, and then we have to move left, and then he goes like that, we have to move right. And it's super, super hard to stay awake there because you haven't gotten any sleep at boot camp at all yet. And you eventually get in there, you have all your shots, you take your antibiotics and stuff like that, which really clear up your system. If you have anything ongoing with your body right now, don't worry, because it's all gonna clear up when you go to boot camp. For me, I had like these warts on my feet and toes. I had them on the side of my hands, like on the bottom of my palms. It was just really weird. And in other areas before I went to boot camp, I caught something right before I went to boot camp. I don't know what it was at all. My body was always super, super itchy. I thought, I was worrying that boot camp might be super uncomfortable for me, because I thought these warts might not go away, but it all cleared up by the third week I was in boot camp. And keep in mind, when you're in medical at boot camp, you'll have like a ton of crap stuffed in your pockets, because they make you keep your stamp kits, all your hand sanitizers, 4 rolls of recruit tape, like your glow belt, and all this different crap stuffed inside your trousers pockets. And for me, I eventually put them inside my cargo pockets, but I started out only having them in the side pockets of my trousers, because I thought I just better keep them where they tell us to, or else we might get grilled or something. But I eventually put some stuff in my cargo pockets. And after medical, I don't really remember what you do. You just go back to the squad bay. They probably teach you more stuff. I don't know. This is just receiving week. I remember the first night really well, because it's the first night. You'll remember your first night super well, but receiving week is receiving week. I remember one time, I think it was the second night we were there, he has like 8 or 10 boxes of Cliff Bars, And he's like, if anybody ever asks about these Cliff Bars, you don't say nothing. You don't know what Cliff Bars are. If anybody asks you, you've never seen these Cliff Bars before. If anybody asks you about Cliff Bars, then he eventually tells me to hand out the Cliff Bars, and I remember passing them out. And then one guy, I didn't think about it at the time, but I like accidentally passed out 2 or 3 Cliff Bars to him. Everybody's only supposed to get 1 per night. And make sure when you first get your Cliff Bars, make sure you get your Cliff Bar, because some guys will take 2 and say they only got 1. You know, people will ask, hey, who got 2 Cliff Bars? And nobody's going to say anything. You know, so make sure you get your Cliff Bar. And if you make any mistakes during receiving week, you might get fire watch. Like I remember I didn't have my stamp kit one time, and then I was supposed to get an hour of fire watch for that, but the scribe didn't write me down. And then I remember one other day during receiving week, he was like, we're all sitting in a school circle. This is when we're filling out our boxes to put our civilian clothes in. I think like it's like the 3rd day, you'll put your civilian clothes inside your boxes. He's like, someone give me a pen. And then I just underhand him my pen that I have. And then he throws it back like almost as hard as he can at me. And then he looks all pissed, right? And he's like, don't you ever. He like looks at everybody and he's like, don't you ever throw anything at a drill instructor. You'll probably get your ass kicked on the ground if you do that. Or something like that. Those are just a couple random memories I had from receiving week. And then I don't really remember anything other than that. And then you'll have Black Friday, which is the very, very first Friday of boot camp. So when it gets to be Black Friday, it'll be F1. I don't remember what F stands for, but you have F1, or you have the Fs and then the T's, which stands for training. Like you'll have T1, T2, T3, training day 1, training day 2, training day 3. And then when you get to the end, you'll have M1, M2, M3, Marine 1, Marine 2, Marine day 3, etc. So when you get to Black Friday, that's when shit gets real. So you'll get up, you'll eat a light breakfast. They'll tell, well, you can eat as much as you want, but they'll tell you to eat a light breakfast because you have to run your IST that morning. I remember one drill instructor from a different receiving platoon, he was like, don't eat too much now, don't have any dairy unless you've been very active before you come here, yada yada, you don't want to like puke when you run your IST. And he said, don't get dropped now, because if you get dropped now, you get dropped back to Mike Company, which is 2 weeks back, and Mike Company is a little bit harder, so don't get dropped now. And then you eventually run your IST. They get you out into the sand, which is right next to the airport. So they have you run half of the PFT course, because the PFT, your physical fitness test, is 3 miles. So they'll have you run the IST, so half that track. They'll have you do pull-ups first, then the IST run portion, 1.5 miles. And then you do your sit-ups when you get done. Once you get done with your run, they have you sip some canteens, and then you go back to like by the pull bars and you sit on the ground so you could do crunches. And then you'll come back to the squad bay, hygiene, change over, and then you're gonna grab a bottle of laundry detergent, and you're gonna put your sea bag on your back. That's when you walk over to your squad bay, where you're gonna have the rest of boot camp. So you walk into your squad bay. I remember we got in there, our receiving drill instructor had us all sit down facing the door of our drill instructor's duty hut, and he said, it's like sit crisscross applesauce, knife hands on your left over right, your legs, knife hands on your knees, back straight, back completely straight, head and eyeballs to the front. Then I remember our senior drill instructor came out, and then he just shook hands with our receiving drill instructor that said, hey, how's it going? Thanks for the recruits, yada yada. And then your senior drill instructor will walk back inside the duty hut, and then a couple minutes later he'll walk back out. I think it's the senior first. Yeah, I think the senior drill instructor walks out first, and then the junior drill instructors will walk out of the duty hut first. They walk out like in a straight line or something like that, or they walk out in some special fashion of their duty hut, and they'll all line up right. If you're like if all the guys are sitting in rows back here, you know, they'll be up front. And they walk out like in a certain fashion, and then they stop into a parade rest. And then he says, "My name is Senior Drill Instructor, Staff Sergeant, da-da-da. These are my whatever, these are your other drill instructors, blah, blah, blah," however they say it. "We are here to push you, whatever, mentally, physically, whatever. We will be here to pick you up or push you whenever you give up on yourselves, or we will be here to motivate you whenever you give up on yourselves, yada, yada, yada." And after that spiel, after that speech, they'll have you get up and they'll be like, "You are now in Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego. You are nothing but worthless lives or worthless recruits," or something like that. And then they'll eventually have you like, "You run this way, 0, 0, stop, freeze." Whenever we say 0, whenever a drill instructor says 0, that is when you freeze your body and you stop moving. And they say eyeballs. When I say eyeballs, that means you look at me. Whenever a drill instructor says eyeballs, that means you look at them. And then run towards the head, 0, run this way, 0. They have you do that like 500 times. And then you eventually stand on line. Sea bags on line, ready, move. And then you get your sea bag on line, you lock your arm out, I think. They have you dump your sea bag. They have you, maybe later on in the day, put everything from your sea bag into your foot locker, and then they'll have you dump your foot locker a dozen times. I think I counted that day, and it was literally like a dozen times we emptied our foot lockers. So we'd have to take, you know, shove all our stuff back in our foot locker and then dump everything out of our foot locker. And then I remember one of the staff sergeants saying, "You have no control over your lives now. Anything you do here, you do not have any control of. You do not have any control of what you're going to think or say for the next 12 weeks. I remember he even said, you do not even have any control over your own thoughts," is what he said. And that's receiving day, and they just mess with you for the whole day. And the next day after that, which would be F2, so that Saturday, you're still going to get messed with. And I think they're supposed to teach you common customs and procedures, or customs and courtesies, the first Saturday you're there. And I don't know what you do on that day, but oh no, you might learn the rules of the house or something like that, the rules of your house, which is your squad bay. They probably tell you rules about the head, and that's the day you learn how to make your rack. They'll show you how to make your rack. And I don't know, they're like, you never run through a squad bay, you're supposed to power walk or something like that. And they probably briefly show you how to roll sleeves, even though your receiving drill instructor will. And then I don't know what they do after that. They probably have you, I think that's the day they have you mark all your stuff, mark your sea bag, mark your war bag, all that crap. And I don't know anything after that. And then the next day you'll have your Sunday. I'll probably just make a video about what church is like in boot camp, because all the Sundays are the same. You'll do something different each Sunday after you're done with church, like drill on a certain Sunday or something else on a certain Sunday, but I'm running out of time, so I'll make a different video about Sundays in boot camp. But that's it for receiving week, which is really like week 0 of boot camp. But my next video will be about week 1 of boot camp. Later.